During the last few hours of the last day of Computex 2024, we visited Tinex 2, and within that area we have Kailh. I'm super excited to see what new things they have, and I immediately saw that they have a bunch of stuff there. Eventually, I requested for silent switches because I am someone who exclusively uses silent switches nowadays, and after a while, we have these three bottles of switches. So we have the Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro both in linear and tactile, and we also have these Kailh Midnight Pro silent switches as well. Let's take a look at the Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro switches first. Immediately, the first thing that I realized is the semi-transparent red stem. You see, the version that I got from Computex 2024 is with a clear stem. Their website also shows it in a clear stem, so I have no idea why the retail version is using a semi-transparent red color stem. Probably it's to signify that red means linear? I don't know. We did open up the switch to have a look inside, and they are indeed the same as the one that they gave us at Computex 2024. It's just the stem is at a different color. Since we do have the original Kailh Deep Sea switch from like a year or two ago, video at the top right corner there if you want to know more about that switch, we can actually compare it with the new ones as well. When we open up both of these switches, the biggest difference is obviously going to be the spring. The new one is using a super long spring, but also thinner in diameter, just slightly thinner. From what I can find online, the specs between the old and the new one are very different. 45 plus minus 10 grams of actuation force with 15 grams of return force, but a slightly longer travel distance at 3.6 plus minus 0.4 millimeters. From what I can tell, the typing feel of these new switches are very different, as it feels much lighter compared to the old switch. As for the typing test, have a listen here. As you can hear, the Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro linear switches, they aren't exactly silent. I have to emphasize that silent switches doesn't mean that they are completely silent. They still do make some noise, and it truly highlights how the switch feels while typing rather than just making a bunch of sound that annoys me personally. These new Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro switches are a bit more of a muted thok sound. It sounds a lot cleaner than the old one, as it was harsh, as you know, when you slam on the switch, it has a lot of plastic on plastic sound. So that is no longer present here, and that's good. If you're a touch typist that requires silent switches with light force while typing, these switches might even increase your WPM number to go higher because of how light the switch is. If you want pure silent experience though, here's a comparison with the EpoMaker Sea Salt Silent Switch, which is a switch that you can't actually buy right now because it is listed as pre-orders only. In my opinion, this switch is still the most silent switch that I have used. Now, if linear switches aren't your thing, then maybe the tactile version of the Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro is what you're looking for. It's practically the same thing as the linear one, except now it has a brown stem, which is identical to the sample switch that we got from Computex 2024. The specs of this switch is more or less the same, only the pre-travel is a bit longer and the bump on this tactile switch is especially pronounced and it immediately collapses near to the bottom once we exert enough force to go through that bump. In terms of the sound though, it is also about the same as the linear counterpart. Have a listen here. If you like tactile switches but don't like the harsh bottoming out sound of some of the switches, then this might be a good choice for you as well. For the last switch that we have here is the Kailh Midnight Pro silent switch. This is actually a 5-pin switch and these other two switches are 3-pin switches, and that is why I have to use the CDU V87 to do all of these typing tests. Now, the Kailh Midnight Pro is also available in both linear and tactile, but we only have the tactile version of the switch here. Once again, it has a long spring, but it doesn't have a box part to separate the leaf from the mechanical parts. While there is a question of dust entering the switch and interfering with the electronics, I believe it is mitigated because of the dust wall design of the stem to prevent dust from entering. Both the pre-travel and tactile force are less than the tactile version of the Kailh Deep Sea Silent Pro switches, and I can definitely feel that bump is also less pronounced and it wouldn't bottom out as aggressively as this switch when I'm typing. This might be your cup of tea if you just want a slight bump on the tactile switch. From what I have tested, this Midnight switch will make a bit more sound compared to the others. While it might sound the same while typing, I can assure you that the Midnight switch produces a bit more echo compared to the Deep Sea Silent Pro in tactile version. This one, the brown one. And for the prices of these switches, on Kailh's website, the Deep Sea Silent Pros go for $77 for 110 switches, same price for both the tactile and linear variants, whereby the Midnight Pros are going for $62 for 110 switches. And that's all that we have to share with you here today in this video. I have to say that Kailh balances between a bit of muted torque sound on the linear Deep Sea Silent Pro switches while also being, relatively silent. The tactile variant is surprisingly good. I can see many people who like tactile switches but the slight harsh bottoming out sound to like this switch a lot more. RGB will also look better on the Deep Sea Silent Pro switches because it has a piece of diffuser, though I disable RGB on my own keyboards. The Midnight Pro offers a different feel and it also offers a muted, slightly clackier sound. Some people might like this kind of switch, so you can go for this if you want to, and it is also lower in price compared to these two switches as well. So I'll leave you all of the links down in the description below if you want to buy them, and We'll see you guys in the next video. As a quick story, since you stayed for this long in the video, my mom went into my room. She saw these 3 bottles of switches. She thought they are snacks. Then she wanted to ask me, why did I hide snacks in my room? Because they are quite delicious looking, like candy.